Hello, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. This is Dr. Jassim Haji, Artificial Intelligence Society in Bahrain. I would like today to explore the future of the humanity and the business, artificial intelligence, and how it really affects the e-payments industry. As everything else, post-pandemics has faster than tracking the artificial intelligence implementations in various areas. Now, if we talk today specifically about the finance sector, the banking and e-payments, there are two folds into that. There is a fold that is related to the business itself. How do you use artificial intelligence for your back office activities and how it will replace many of the manual activities that is done today? And the other fold is related to the customer relations and the customer services and how customers have more autonomous activities. And I will end up with the most important part of the artificial intelligence, especially in the e-payments, and that's the security, which is the concern and worries of both consumers and obviously judiciary establishments. Artificial intelligence, without going into many explanations about it, and is known to many of you, is about mimicking the human's behavior and thinking. And of course, it learns as it goes, and it's potentially providing similar thinking as human, but with more stability, more of speed to concern with the activities, and no interactions with human or biases, providing that we establish it right from the beginning. Of course, artificial intelligence is not only a technology, it's all about the algorithms that you put in place right from the beginning and how you can use the data, because the data is paramount and is the most important part of the AI. Without the rich data, you will stumble at the beginning and you will not be able to take the further actions that we expected from it. So big data, structured and unstructured data are most part that's relevant to it, and the data analytics are key components of that. Of course, the programming comes as one of the other pillars of the artificial intelligence. Now, I won't spend much time about talking about the fintechs, which is, I'm sure many of you are very familiar about it, but the pillars of the fintech is also relying on the artificial intelligence and how the artificial intelligence chatbots and many other self-driven activities, which we will talk about in a minute, will act on itself. One thing I need to be clear about here, the artificial intelligence is not a marketing tool that attracts consumers. It's more of autonomous activities that's given to your customers, is a step beyond the e-payments and e-banking and the mobile apps. There's something that will cater for the next decade and beyond that. So here we're talking about the investment. Do you want to investment without an AI for something that you potentially think will take you to next decade, or you'll find yourself in a year or two that investment is wasted because it did not include the AI and machine learning in it. So conversational commerce, that's called conversational e-commerce, if you like, in future, is a part that the human, both from the consumer and from your organization, will establish their conversation with the bots. Of course, depending on the size of the organization, you can establish bots as low as 4 or 5, or into the numbers that goes into hundreds and thousands, depending on the speed, on the data, on the activities, the processes that the bank does in the front end and in the back end. Of course, the RPAs, robotic process automations, are used heavily in the back ends. That's, if you like, the beginning of the artificial intelligence, and it's not so complicated, but there are many other parts that we are focusing today on, just the payment. Now, one of the most important worries for the bankers today are the behaviors of your consumers. What are they thinking? How they think? What what are their next steps. Instead of making random phone calls or sending survey web-designed e-forms to customers who may answer you or not, you have a lot of data that's in your custody. And those data could be as good as what you have on the social media, because that's one of your sources that AI can analyze, look at the patterns of the users' behaviors, read them, look at the history, and come up with decisions or recommendations. And that analytical part of it is moving from providing a data to human to analyze and take decisions to AI, where it can take you to the next step. Of course, continuing on that, there were examples, for instance, in banks in Singapore, where they have deployed hundreds of the bots for the customers' interactions. And imagine you deploying in your call centers hundreds of agents, or tens of them, if not that many, to interact with customers. Now, from users' experience, you get the first level, second level questions, if you're lucky, answered by an agent, where he or she has in their custody the information on the laptop. But beyond that, they'll have to refer it to somebody else in the back office, somebody who can make a decision, somebody who can explain it more. And that usually takes a day or two, to the frustrations of the customers, or because they cannot get access because it's weekend and because there's a volume of calls. And the pandemic shown us people can't come to the offices, difficult to work from home for the call centers. That is all vanished with the use of chatbots, or the conversational 24/7 between the bots and the customers. Now, before we get into the security part of it, it's important to understand that the chatbots nowadays is available in both voice and text. Of course, the text is the primary solution for many organizations, where they try to replace their customer services and the call centers, and that's going away sooner or later. And there are no choices. You can delay it, but you cannot eliminate that replacement. Of course, the challenges are coming with the multi-language chatbots, where it can even have conversational and for instance, in Arabic, and that's something that the big five tech companies are working with, even local dialects and slang languages, where you have information, confidential information, when you've been checked out. And of course, the next level is, as we said, is the voice to text or voice to voice conversation, which is nowadays is becoming very regular in many industries. Now, if we look at all that, that's a good deal. You know, it simplifies, gets rid of the human. It's much faster. It's more accurate, more robust. You get credible and steady service. You don't have to get three types of services from three different agents sitting in the bank or on the phone. But of course, the biggest part that you always see, and then during the pandemic was very obvious, was the security threats. The focus was 70 to 80% on the banking sectors. Of course, you keep upgrading your data, you keep bringing more expertise in your security team. But is that the solution? Now, again, another study shown that between 65 to 75% of the attacks on the banks or ransomwares are using artificial intelligence with the tools that cybersecurity criminals try to hack or misuse your information or your customers. Now, it will be insane to react to those cyber criminals using most advanced AI technologies with your traditional tools, or with your cybersecurity personnel who are obviously not working 24/7, or at the max you have a cybersecurity command center which is not the same level as the security expertise. And again, they'll have to be upgraded and be empowered, kept taking more credible certifications to keep up with those. But why do you invest in those areas? Why do you need to keep equipment and invest that on something that is, again, as I said earlier, will disappear? To fight AI attacks, you need an AI defense. And this is the analysis that is done by all modern audit companies, the big four. They always recommend this kind of information, but that's not only now, it's coming up. It's not only during the pandemic. The advantage of AI taking at the front line in the defense is because it can read all the patterns of your cyber attackers. It can give you an advance warning by looking at the history, by looking at which waves are taking place in the different places. There is an early alarm system. It can put automatic recommendations for you to take action or have an autonomous action. There is a clear forecasting by AI on which part of your industry is being targeted. Of course, there are many fraud-utilized AI bots that's available nowadays, but of course, it has to be part and part of your whole organization. It's not a piece that you put it in the corner and you think that you have now the mixture of human and AI working together. The combination is not as simple as that. It's complicated. The algorithm that is need to be put in place. So it's the entire strategy that you need to see in your e-payment and your banking. Of course, that comes up with the new fraud applications. Your AI defense will also put your policies in place. It's an autonomous policies that keep updating by itself for policies on your firewall, or other detection systems. It can update it based on the detections and the forecast. Of course, more and more you will see face recognitions implemented in cyber security, where it looks at humans, even interactions and the records throughout the community to link it with the fraud systems in many countries. That is the interface between national security and the banking on how AI and face recognitions. Of course, there is a lot of debate in the West that's happening on the data privacy and the personalized data, but that's the balance between having security or having the data leakage. Now, with that, I'll come to end of my short presentations, and then we'll leave you with the thoughts on how artificial intelligence, as much as it can be helpful, reduce manpower reliance on the human, more autonomous at a much faster speed, 24/7, but also how it can secure your business. Well, thank you very much for listening to me, and hope you have good presentations with the rest of the team.